Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB bringing you InBetweenIsode number 19. And so today, kind of as a segue from last week where I talked a little about Linsong teas and the Linsong tea of the month, today I am bringing on a sample, and I just actually ordered a cake of this, of the 2012 Yunnan Sourcing Wuliang Mountain. And so that's been the tea of the month for February, and I should note that the Wuliang region is a very different region from the Linsong, partly because it's just a whole lot smaller. It's a mountain range that runs north-south. It's mainly in Samao or Pu'erh prefecture, whichever one you want to go for. And it's kind of a region that's not really traditionally known to produce a lot of pu'erh. Its leaves have always been used more for green tea, I believe, green tea and possibly black tea. But I do know that it wasn't like a common area to go for shaguan or dai to get some of their leaves that presumably went into some of those really famous cakes from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so a lot of people have mixed feelings on aging Wuliang as a result. I don't really have a whole lot more to add to that conversation, simply because I don't know and I don't have nearly enough experience to tell. So I'm just going to evaluate this tea kind of how it is. Alright, so I am on the third brew here. And so this is the 2012 version. I actually drank the 2012, 2012, and 2014 version. And it's really easy to see the similarities between the three productions from Yunnan Sourcing. But this was probably my favorite. The 2010 is a little bit more mellow. The flavors have started to round out a little bit more. And the 2014 was still a little bit rough on my stomach. This tea still is a bit, but it's just kind of at a nice place right now for me to drink. So this was kind of the pick of the litter, at least for me. And so that is steep number 3. One other thing to note, and you guys will get some close-ups of the wet leaf afterwards, is that this is the end of my sample bag. And so, as anyone that's gone through a fair amount of pu'erh sample bags know, sometimes the last one is just kind of, you're going to get a lot of bits and crumbs. And so you're going to have to kind of brew accordingly. It's a lot easier to get bitter brews and stuff like that just from the tiny little sediment. You'll also rinse away a whole bunch of it, potentially at the beginning. If you use a filter, it'll get stuck in the filter. And so there's just a few little nuances there. Alright, so let's have a sniff here. So it's got an extremely sort of green, probably the predominant stuff is kind of a grassy, slightly floral, a little bit of, I could see a little bit of nuttiness, maybe acorns or something like that, in its just aroma. And let's have a sip. So there's a lot of really green flavors at the forefront, a lot of sweet hay, sweet grass, kind of similar to the aroma, kind of what you'd expect. It's not at all just a sweet tea. There's still a lot of punch in the leaves, a lot of bitterness and astringency. It sticks in your mouth, and that bitterness kind of becomes sort of a sweeter flavor if you just pay attention to how the taste sort of evolves in your mouth. So I'm still sort of tasting that tea right now. And I think that's one of the more pleasant things about this tea. Yeah, so I would say this tea, I have no clue how it's going to age. Some people say one thing, other people really do believe this stuff is going to age. Hobbes over at Half Dipper really loves these Wuliang cakes and has tonged up at least one. So there's definitely some people that believe this stuff can age, but I will say, as far as sort of like a daily drinking young raw pu'erh, it's 400 grams for I think $34 or $35. that's a really reasonable deal to get some just sort of daily drinking tea that's very pleasant to drink now. And I'm curious to how it's going to age. So I picked up a cake. I'll probably just slowly chip away at it, and I'll sort of just naturally age in my Pu'erh. Part of the reason why this tea does tend to be cheaper, I think, is because it is also not from one of those super hot regions like Xishuangbanna, pretty much everything there, Munghai County, Yiwu. It's not from those areas. It's not from Linsong, Bingdao, or anything like that. This is kind of off the beaten path to a certain extent. The price has risen a little bit over the years. I think these did used to be a little bit cheaper, but it's still extremely affordable as far as these cakes go. And it seems like Scott has been going back year after year producing this cake since, I think, 2009 or 2010. So it's sort of a house specialty to him. I'm sure he has a few connections out there. This tea is not the easiest on the stomach, so if you're really sensitive to raw pu'erh hitting the stomach, I would be a little bit careful about this tea and maybe order a sample first. But I will say that I do enjoy it a lot. I'll get some close-ups of the wet leaf and stuff for you guys, and thank you guys for watching. Please let me know what you'd like me to cover. I realize doing this episode that I've talked a lot about raw pu'erh lately, and Denny and I have talked a lot about raw pu'erh, and when I'm not talking about raw pu'erh, I'm talking about ripe pu'erh, so it's just a whole lot of pu'erh. So let me know if you would like me to cover something else, if you're enjoying the raw pu'erh and whatnot. I do have, the March tea of the month is a couple of Wuliangs, so we will probably be mixing it up in the near future. So thank you guys for watching, and cheers.